It was supposed to be my birthday. I say supposed to because by the end of the night, it felt more like a funeral. Not for someone who had died, but for someone who never really existed in the first place. Me. My name is Eden Ray. I turned 28 the night my father poured himself a drink, raised his glass with a crooked smile, and said the words that have lived under my skin ever since. You were never supposed to be born. He said it so casually, as if he were commenting on the weather, as if it was a joke. But the silence that followed told me it wasn't. Not really. My mother, Marla, didn't flinch. She kept stirring her wine with a plastic cocktail stick, eyes fixed on a spot behind me. My sister Sierra? She burst out laughing, like it was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. I sat there, frozen, the only sound in my head the ticking of the wall clock above the fireplace. I remember it so vividly, the sound of it ticking down every second of that dinner, the last one I would ever spend with them. This was my family, or so I thought. To understand what happened that night, you have to know a little about the people sitting at that table with me. My father, Clive Ray, was once a man who built furniture with his bare hands. I remember as a child watching him shape raw wood into something beautiful. But over time, the anger in him shaped something else, something sharp. Somewhere between losing his job and finding the bottom of a whiskey bottle, he stopped shaping wood and started reshaping people with his bitterness. Mostly me. My mother, Marla, was always silent, always present but never really there. She floated through our home like a ghost. Her love conditional, her attention a currency I could never afford. She spent her life making excuses for my father and worshiping Sierra as though she were some golden calf. And Sierra, where do I even begin? She's 4 years younger than me, but somehow managed to live like a queen in a kingdom built on my silence. If I got an A, she got praise. If I cried, I was too sensitive. If she cried, the world stopped spinning until she smiled again. She was everything I wasn't. Loud, sparkly, adored. She knew how to turn a room into a spotlight, even when that room was supposed to be for me, like the living room on my 28th birthday. I had spent the whole day cooking. I made dinner myself because I didn't trust them to care. I bought my own cake, the one I always wanted as a kid but never got, a vanilla buttercream with strawberries and silver frosting. I even decorated, balloons, a tablecloth, music softly playing in the background. It felt pathetic the moment I lit the candles. But I did it anyway, because some part of me still believed maybe this time they'd show up for me. And they did show up. Just not for me. They came, they ate, and then they took turns picking me apart. My job in real estate? Boring. My single status? Concerning. My cake? Too sweet, according to Sierra, as she carved herself the biggest piece. I tried to laugh it off, I always do. But then my father poured himself another drink, sloshed it into his glass like it owed him something. He looked at me from across the table, his eyes glassy but sharp, and he said it. You were never supposed to be born. I blinked, waiting for a punchline. Sierra laughed first, of course. Don't say that, she said, nudging him, still laughing. You'll give her another complex. Then silence, a heavy, suffocating silence. I looked at my mother. Nothing. She didn't even look at me. That was when I realized I wasn't even there. Not really. I was just a placeholder, a burden, a name they forgot to cross out. And that was the moment something inside me broke, and something else started to wake up. Because what they didn't know, what no one at that table knew, was that the house they lived in, the walls they decorated, the nameplate on my bedroom door, all of it, technically, belonged to me. And by the time they'd blown out the candles and gone back to pretending I didn't exist, I had already made up my mind. They took my cake, my room, my name off the wall. But I was about to take something they would never get back, the house, and the version of me that used to beg for their love. Before that birthday, before the drink, the insult, and the silence, I used to tell myself I was lucky. Lucky to have a roof over my head, lucky to have a family, even if they didn't know what to do with me. Lucky to be alive, even if no one ever said they were glad I was born. I held on to that idea the way people hold on to splinters, hoping it'll stop hurting if you just stop moving. Growing up in the Ray household was like living in a house full of glass. It looked solid from the outside, normal even, but inside, every word felt sharp, every step cautious, and any wrong move could shatter the illusion of peace. My earliest memory is of my mom holding Sierra, bouncing her on her hip, while I stood off to the side with my hand raised, waiting to be noticed. I was 5. Sierra was a baby. She cried, she screamed, and she always got picked up. I learned early that silence got me further than asking. By the time I was 10, I had become a shadow in my own house. Sierra got dance classes, piano lessons, new clothes. I got hand-me-downs and instructions. Watch your sister. Don't make noise. You're older, act like it. They called it discipline. I later realized it was just dismissal. It wasn't always like that. There was one person who treated me like I mattered. My Uncle Joel, my mom's older brother. He never married. He lived in the same neighborhood for decades and had this quiet warmth that felt like a hidden room in a house filled with locked doors. When I was 12 and Sierra accidentally flushed my science project down the toilet, it was Uncle Joel who helped me rebuild it in time for the fair. When I turned 16 and my parents forgot, it was Uncle Joel who drove me to the beach with 2 sandwiches and a cupcake. We sat on the hood of his truck, watching the ocean like it was a movie made just for us. He said something that stuck with me all these years. Just because they don't see you doesn't mean you're not real. You're not invisible, Eden. You're just surrounded by people who refuse to look. Joel lived alone in the house I now live in. Or lived in. Past tense. After he passed away last year, the will came with a twist. The house, the one my parents now call theirs, was left to me. Quietly, privately. Uncle Joel, in all his quiet kindness, never told anyone except me. He gave me the deed on my 27th birthday and said, "Someday, this might be the only thing you can call yours. When that day comes, don't ask for permission. Just take it." But I didn't, not at first. After his funeral, my parents insisted they help manage the estate, and somehow, within weeks, they moved in. I told myself they were grieving, that they'd leave soon. But months passed. Then Sierra brought over a closet full of her clothes, then her dog, then a treadmill. Suddenly, I was the guest in my own home. I still had the legal papers, the title, the power, but I didn't use it, because even though they ignored me, even though they treated me like a coat rack they kept forgetting to throw out, I still wanted their love. I still wanted to belong. So I let them stay. I cooked. I paid the bills when my dad's unemployment check ran dry. I shoveled snow in the winter and fixed the leaking faucet no one else bothered to touch. They never thanked me, but I kept trying, because I thought that if I did enough, said the right thing, stayed out of the way just enough, not too much, not too little, they'd finally see me. Sierra, of course, didn't work. Not in the traditional sense. She called herself an influencer. She filmed makeup videos in her bathrobe and complained when I walked through the background. She had followers, sponsorships, people sending her gifts she didn't need. I watched her open boxes of expensive products on the kitchen counter while I scraped together coupons for groceries. She'd mock me for it. "You're so frugal, Eden," she'd say. "It's not that deep. You should do something fun for once." I guess she thought fun meant financing their lifestyle while being erased from my own. Still, I stayed, until that birthday, until my father said the words I thought I was too old to be hurt by. "You were never supposed to be born." I used to think I was the quiet one, the peaceful one, the one who kept the house from falling apart, but maybe I was just the one who made it easy for them to pretend I wasn't there at all. That night, after they finished eating my birthday cake without offering me a slice, after Sierra asked if I could move into the attic so she could turn my room into her studio, after my mother nodded in approval like it was perfectly reasonable, I walked into the guest room, formerly Joel's office, and opened the fireproof lockbox I had kept sealed for a year. Inside, the deed, signed, witnessed, stamped with a seal I had stared at 100 times but never truly claimed. It was in that moment I realized something painful and clear. This house had never been theirs, and neither was my silence. It's strange how quickly pain can turn into clarity. After my father's birthday toast, those 7 words that shattered the last illusion I had of ever being loved, I stopped hoping. But what hurt the most wasn't just what he said. It was what came next. Nothing. No apology, No shock, no one rushing to say, don't listen to him, or he didn't mean it. Just silence, an empty space where a family's love should have been. That night, while they were still in the living room laughing about some story Sierra was telling, something about a brand trip to Miami, and how even her haters made her famous, I quietly excused myself. I went to my room, the one I had kept simple and peaceful, the only space that felt remotely like mine. Except when I opened the door, my mother and Sierra were already inside. Sierra had my jewelry box open on the bed, holding up my earrings to her ears. "Oh," she said, like I was the one interrupting. "We were just talking about switching things up." I stood there, frozen. Switching what up? "The room," my mom said. "Sierra needs better lighting for her videos, and more space. You hardly use this room anyway, Eden." My mouth went dry. "This is my room." Sierra shrugged. "The attic's still empty. You could totally make it cozy, kind of like a loft. Or you could just crash on the couch. It's not like you entertain guests or anything." I didn't even have time to respond. My mother was already peeling my name decal off the wall. My name. Eden, written in gold vinyl letters that Uncle Joel helped me put up when I first moved in. "I'll get you a new one," she said, like it was just a decoration and not the last thing tethering me to a space I called my own. They took my name off the wall. They took the room. They took my voice. When I went back to the kitchen to grab a glass of water, the cake I'd bought, the one I chose, paid for, and brought home, was gone. Just crumbs on plates and empty forks in the sink. No one saved me a slice. No one asked if I even had some. That's when I knew. I didn't live in a home. I lived in a house with people who fed off my silence like it was free rent. I stood there, staring at the sink full of dishes, and thought about all the things I'd done for them. Paid for the new washing machine when the old one broke. Covered Sierra's credit card bill, just this once. Repaired the roof after the storm last fall while my father claimed his back hurt too much to help. I had spent years trading pieces of myself for a sense of belonging, and all I got was an attic and a half-eaten cake. That night, I didn't cry. Not this time. I just sat on my bed, well, the bed I had before they moved it, and opened my laptop. I pulled up the property management portal Uncle Joel had walked me through the week before he died. He'd made me promise I'd never give them control of the house, that I'd protect it, protect myself, even if it meant walking away from everyone else. At the time, I didn't understand why he was so serious. Now I did. I clicked into the account, entered the deed reference number, and stared at the digital line confirming my ownership. Legal owner, Eden M. Ray. There it was, in black and white, something they couldn't erase, a fact that didn't require their approval or validation. But I didn't click submit, not yet, because part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, they would come knock on my door. Say sorry, say, "Happy birthday, Eden." Say anything that sounded like love. Instead, I heard Sierra's voice float through the hallway. "She's just so weird, Mom. You know she talks to herself sometimes, like full-on conversations, and she's so plain. It's like living with an old librarian." My mother chuckled. "Don't be cruel. She won't even notice we took the room. She doesn't care about stuff like that." I just wish she'd smile more. That was it. That was the full extent of my birthday celebration. A joke, a stolen room, a forgotten cake, and then mockery. I remember looking around at the space that used to feel safe. The string lights, the bookshelf, the photos of Uncle Joel and me on beach trips, birthdays the day I graduated, the memories that had kept me grounded, now being erased one by one. And I thought, enough. No more waiting to be noticed. No more hoping for crumbs. No more playing the role of the grateful daughter in a family that wouldn't notice if I vanished. If they wanted me gone so badly, fine. I'd give them what they wanted, but not before I took back what was mine. Not before I made sure they understood. Silence wasn't the same as weakness, and I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, not even because I was hurt, though I was, in a way that felt deeper than skin. It was something colder, a grief for someone who was still breathing, a grief for the girl I'd been, so desperate to be loved, so willing to disappear if it meant they'd let her stay. But she was gone now. In her place stood someone who saw things clearly. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed. Well, the guest bed in Joel's old office now that my room was repurposed, and I went through every file, document, and key my uncle ever gave me. Joel had been methodical. He left me everything: a full property record, the notarized deed, his final bank statement, and a letter. Handwritten, sealed in an envelope I'd never opened until now. I held it in my lap, staring at the envelope with my name on it in his uneven scrawl. For a second, I thought I might cry, but the tears didn't come. I was past that. I opened the envelope, inside a single sheet of yellowed paper. Eden, if you're reading this, it means they pushed too far. I'm sorry I won't be there to help you through it, but you were always stronger than you knew. This house is yours, not because I wanted to hurt them, but because you were the only one who treated it like a home. You earned this. Don't let guilt keep you stuck. Don't wait for them to change. Take it and go. Joel, take it and go. It echoed in my mind like a mantra, so I did. I opened my laptop and logged back into the property transfer system. My name was already on the deed, but now it was time to protect it. Time to act. First, I filed a change of occupancy notice, quietly, legally, no need for noise. Then I contacted a private buyer, someone I knew from my job in real estate, a quiet investor who specialized in cash sales. He didn't ask questions. I told him the property was mine and I wanted to sell it under one condition: 30-day close, no contingencies, and the buyer would handle the eviction notices discreetly. He agreed. By morning, the paperwork was already in motion, and I didn't stop there. I called a moving company and scheduled a pickup for only my things. I packed that day, quietly. Just the essentials: my clothes, my photo albums, the letters from Joel, the legal documents, my laptop. Everything else? I left behind, not out of kindness, but because I wanted them to look around and wonder what happened. That night, Sierra knocked on the guest room door, not to apologize, but to tell me she needed help setting up lighting for her next live stream. She didn't even wait for my answer before walking in. "You're not even dressed. Are you just gonna mope for the rest of your life?" she asked, sipping a protein shake. I looked at her calmly. "I won't be here tomorrow." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'm leaving." She laughed. "Yeah, okay, sure, you always say that." I've never said it before. "Whatever. Can you at least make sure the rent's paid before you go? Dad's still trying to get that loan approved." I just nodded. Let her think what she wanted. Let them all think I was still the quiet one, the doormat, the help. Because in less than 30 days, they would find out that the house they stood in wasn't theirs, and neither was I. The next morning, I dropped off the keys to my new apartment. It was small, a one-bedroom in the city, nothing like the house, but it was mine. Paid in full, up front, using the buyer's deposit. It smelled like fresh paint and dust, a blank canvas. Before I left the house for the last time, I did one final thing. I printed a note, just a few words, taped it to the refrigerator door, right next to the last electric bill, one I'd already paid in full. "You took my room, my name, my cake, so I took the house." Eden. I left the house key on the table beneath it. When I stepped outside, the sun was rising. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like I was running. I felt like I was finally walking toward something, toward myself. And for once, no one could take that away. 2 weeks passed. The silence from the house was loud, but I didn't care anymore. I was done checking in. Done answering texts from Sierra that said things like, "Need your help setting up the Wi-Fi again," or my mother's occasional, "Do you know where the car title is?" I ignored them all. Then the call came, not from them, but from the buyer's office. "Final inspection is complete. Eviction notices have been sent. Property closes this Friday." That was it. The house, my house, was gone. Legally, permanently, no going back. I didn't expect to feel anything, but I did. Not guilt, not regret. Just a strange kind of peace, like I'd finally set down a weight I'd been carrying since childhood, but the universe wasn't going to let it end quietly. Because the next morning, Sierra showed up at my work, unannounced. My office manager looked confused as she led her in. "She said she was your sister." I stood up, calm and composed. Sierra marched straight in like she still owned everything, eyes wide, her voice sharp. You sold the house? I didn't say anything at first. I just let the question hang in the air. She slammed her hand on my desk. Are you insane? You can't do that. You had no right. I had every right, I said softly. It was mine. Her face twisted. You knew we had nowhere else to go. I blinked. Did you ever think about where I was supposed to go when you took my room? When Mom nodded and said nothing? When Dad said I shouldn't have been born? You're being dramatic. I'm being deliberate. She laughed bitterly, shaking her head. You've always been jealous. That's your problem. You were never happy unless someone was feeling sorry for you. No, I said, standing. I was never happy because I kept trying to build a home out of people who only saw me as a wall to lean on. You're going to ruin everything, she hissed. Do you know what Dad said when the notice came? He sat there and cried. He kept saying, she betrayed us. I stared at her. I finally stopped betraying myself. Her jaw clenched. For the first time in years, she looked small, shaken. I can't fix the fact that none of you ever loved me the way I wanted, I said, but I can make sure I don't keep giving pieces of myself to people who leave me empty. You're not even going to help us. I helped you every day. I cooked, I paid bills, I gave up space, and every time, you took a little more. You took until there was nothing left but a name on a wall, and then you peeled that off too. Sierra opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I wasn't yelling, I didn't need to. That's what made it hit harder. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm free. She stared at me, confused, furious, and still trying to figure out how the girl she used to mock could possibly have outmaneuvered them all. Then she left. Just like that. No parting words, no apologies. Just footsteps down the hallway and a slammed door that echoed longer than I expected. 2 days later, I got a text from my mother. Just one sentence. You really went through with it. No greeting, no punctuation, just confirmation. I didn't reply. That Friday, the house sale closed. A notice was taped to the front door with the buyer's seal. New ownership in effect. All previous occupants must vacate within 14 days. I didn't need to witness the aftermath. I didn't want to see them pack up their lives in boxes the way they tried to pack me into silence for years. I didn't care if they cried, or begged, or blamed me. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for restoration. They broke something in me, and I built something better with the pieces they left behind. That weekend, I walked through my new neighborhood. No one knew me. No one had expectations. I bought flowers from a street vendor, cooked myself a real dinner, lit a candle at the table, and played music. Not for anyone else, not for approval, just for me. The cake that night was store-bought, small, just enough for one, vanilla buttercream with strawberries. And this time, I ate the first slice, alone, alive, and finally, enough. It's been 3 months. 3 months since I left the house I grew up in. 3 months since I chose silence not as survival, but as freedom. You might think the guilt would have crept in by now. That one morning I'd wake up and wonder if I went too far, that maybe I should have left the house to them, or helped them get back on their feet, or left a piece of myself behind so they'd still have something of me to hate quietly. But that never came. What came instead was peace. Not loud, victorious peace, the kind with fireworks or applause, but something quiet, steady, like a warm room after years of cold. I've learned a lot in these 3 months. I've learned that blood doesn't make people family. Behavior does. That sometimes the people who share your last name will never share your heart. And that the love you keep begging for from others is the love you forgot to give yourself. I've also learned that letting go isn't loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. It's a single sentence printed on a piece of paper, a lockbox opened, a note left behind. Letting go is making space in your life where pain used to live. It's lighting a candle, not to grieve, but to celebrate. It's walking past a bakery, seeing the cake that once symbolized everything they denied you, and buying it anyway, just because you can. I no longer call it my childhood home. That phrase doesn't fit. It never did. It was a structure built of walls, routines, rules, but not safety, not joy, not me. My real home, I'm building that now. In a second floor apartment with plants, I finally remember to water. With soft music playing while I cook, not because anyone's coming over, but because I like the way it fills the air. I've painted the walls in colors I love: sage, pale blue, cream. No more beige neutral tones, no more compromises. My name isn't on a decal on the door. It's on the lease, the mailbox, the welcome mat. And for the first time, it feels like it belongs there. I keep Joel's letter framed on my nightstand, not because I need a reminder of what I lost, but because I need to remember what I was always worthy of. He saw me when no one else did. And sometimes that one person who believes in you is enough to carry you through every room where no one else does. As for my parents, I don't know where they are now. I got a letter forwarded from the buyer's attorney saying they'd vacated the property on day 13. No damages, no fights, just gone. I thought I'd want to know more. Maybe I'd search for them online, see if they moved in with Sierra, if they blamed me, if they were okay. But I didn't look, because they already showed me who they were, and I've finally stopped needing an answer to a question they never cared to ask. I don't celebrate my birthday the way I used to. There's no cake, no candles, no awkward dinners where I try to shrink myself to make room for other people's comfort. Now, I take the day off work. I go to the ocean. I sit in the sand with a book, a snack, and the knowledge that I survived something no one should ever have had to. Being born shouldn't be a crime, but in that house, it was a sentence I had to serve. Now I'm free. To anyone listening, maybe you've felt that way too. Maybe you've been the invisible one, the one who gives and gets nothing back, the one who carries everyone else's weight only to be told you're selfish the one time you set it down. I want to tell you something no one ever told me. You don't have to stay, not in that house, not in that family, not in that silence. You don't need their permission to exist. You don't need to keep proving you deserve love. You don't need to wait for them to see your worth. You get to choose yourself. You get to leave. You get to begin again. My name is Eden Ray, and the best thing I ever did wasn't leaving them. It was finally returning to myself.